you also need to understand what it is that your prospects want to be educated on. And most importantly, you need to understand specifically what is it that your prospects want to learn from you.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Colin Hirdman began his entrepreneurial journey immediately after college, founding his first company. He co-founded Monkey Island Ventures with two childhood friends, a company named after a park they frequented. Currently, Colin focuses on Rainmaker, where he assists founders, business coaches, and sales teams in expanding their LinkedIn networks, generating leads, and increasing sales using their authentic engine. You will gain insights into the correct LinkedIn philosophy to enhance the professional presence, learn strategies for audience building and targeting, and discover the best performing campaign tactics to maximize outreach and sales on LinkedIn. So Colin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kenny. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here too. I am looking forward to our conversation. But before I get into questions on the topic, I'd love to ask you just to share your story of how you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it was really kind of by chance. I graduated college with a criminal justice degree. I never took a business class or an accounting class or a marketing class. So I was just thrown into the fire. So a week after I graduated from college, started a company, a marketing company, and grew that for about a decade and then sold that company. And then in 2007, started Monkey Island Ventures with Josh and Zach, two buddies of mine. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old. And like you said, yeah, Monkey Island's named after a park that we played at when we were kids. And so through Monkey Island, we've done a lot of different startups, a lot in kind of tech and software, but also have created a couple of service companies, one around digital marketing, another one around software development. And like you said, now I'm spending all my time in our newest company, Rainmaker, which I've been doing now for a little over 6 months.
Oh, nice. Well, I know too that so many people know as business owners, we should be on LinkedIn because that is the profile, for business to business type things, and even building relationships that are more than just business to business. But I know a lot of times people feel it's, just one more platform I have to be on, and I'm not sure how to use it effectively compared to like other platforms. So do you want to share maybe your philosophy about LinkedIn and how can we actually optimize it for a professional presence so that we can reach our target audience?
Yeah, I love it. I love how you kind of posited the question. So, for me, just at a baseline, I'm not a huge social media guy, but I do love LinkedIn, and I love it because it is a social network. It is about people, and it is about building relationships, but it's also a business social network. People are there to hire, people are there to look for jobs, people are there to build relationships and buy and sell from one another. And I love that aspect of LinkedIn. I think one of the things that I've been more acutely aware of is my use of LinkedIn. And I think what I'm going to be sharing more so with you and your audience today is looking at LinkedIn as really a growth engine in driving leads and sales. But when I think about LinkedIn, I'm really kind of breaking it up into three areas. The top being my LinkedIn philosophy. The next layer below that is around audience and audience building. And then the layer below that is campaigns and the actual tactics that one should employ on LinkedIn. So when I think about LinkedIn philosophy, the number one thing people have to come to LinkedIn with is a sense of being authentic. Okay, and being authentic to who you are as an individual and communicating as you normally would. And I think using more of a casual approach on LinkedIn is what people want. But number two, then you also have to be authentic to the brand or the brands that you represent. The next thing is also approaching LinkedIn with an educational mindset. Nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn, but I think virtually everyone is willing to be educated on LinkedIn. And then the final thing I'll say about kind of the LinkedIn philosophy, and this is a charge that I put on myself that I take very seriously. And I think anyone that is a founder, an entrepreneur, or in marketing or sales, I'm also charging you with this, which is you are the one responsible for understanding the pain points and the barriers that your prospects are trying to overcome. You also need to understand what it is that your prospects want to be educated on. And most importantly, you need to understand specifically what is it that your prospects want to learn from you. And so that's where I think about LinkedIn from an educational mindset. And so then the layer below that is really around audience. And I use Sales Navigator to build most of my audiences. If a client of mine doesn't have Sales Navigator, then we'll just use mine. But and Sales Navigator works really well for a majority of instances. But one of the things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of months is how do you start to identify people on LinkedIn that are also further down the purchase path, where they're already thinking about what it is that your company might solve for. And a couple of ways that I've identified are, one would be LinkedIn events. So if you have any competitors or if there's any industry associations or organizations that are creating LinkedIn events, and those LinkedIn events are talking about things that are either directly services or products that your business solves for, or tangentially is an event that your prospects are attending that your business solves for. If you go and attend that event as well, you can see everyone else that's also attending that event. And so what you'd be able to do is you have all these people on LinkedIn that are attending these events and they're publicly raising their hand and saying, this is who I am and I'm interested in this topic. Well, you could start attending those events as well and extrapolate an audience out of that, knowing that these are, maybe you're going after other founders of, manufacturing companies and they're attending this event. Well, you could build an audience out of that event, knowing that these people are interested in what it is that my business solves for, and start building out first connections with those people. Another one would be like a thought leader. So being able to, maybe there's somebody on LinkedIn that's a thought leader within your industry, and a lot of your prospects are following that person for really good content, and you could try and connect with that person. If they connect back, now they're a first connection. And then you could go into LinkedIn Search or LinkedIn Sales Navigator and say, okay, I'm selecting, Brenda and as a first connection, and I want to see everyone that's a first connection to her, but as a second connection to me, that is also a founder of a manufacturing company and, within this geography, and start building out first connections with people that are possibly already further down that purchase path that would want to connect with you, where that's now giving you an opportunity to start building a relationship with those people. So again, most of the time I'm using Sales Navigator to build out audiences, but I am trying to figure out ways to kind of shortcut our ability to identify people that are further down the purchase path that may be more open to engaging with us and potentially even hiring us for our services and products.
I was just going to say, when you were talking about finding out the person who is further down, that path. Like, I understand, like you're saying, if you attend an event and you see that person and, maybe it's, learning how to do, topic A, right? And they have an interest. But then when you're connecting with their first and they're your second, how do you know maybe where those people are in terms of their interest then when you're saying that's how you're developing that? I guess that was a question that I thought of while you were chatting with me.
Oh, yeah. So if you mean like using a person as a proxy that you'd want to connect with?
Yeah, we were saying look at the person I connect with who's on a first now. Let me look at their first connections who might be a second to me. And you want to find people who are further down the, the buying path. So they're a little more of a warm lead, right? So I guess how do you identify that if it's people you haven't really connected with much before?
Yeah, so I'll use a specific example. There's a woman that does a great job. I can't remember her last name. Her first name is Brenda, and she has like 70,000 followers on LinkedIn. And so what she's talking about, multiple times a week are posts on like how you should be growing on LinkedIn and what your profile should look like and what kind of posts you should be doing. So I know that a lot of her first connections are following her because they want her LinkedIn content.
Because the content.
Right. Yep. And so I connected with her, and so now I can see everyone that's a first connection to her that is a second connection to me. That might be a founder or a sales executive or a business coach. Right. Some of those different titles that I've been going after for Rainmaker. So I'm using her as like a proxy. Yep. To find other people. So yep. So that would be a specific example of how you use a person as a proxy. So,
Okay, perfect.
and so then the last kind of area that I look at is the campaigns. And so what I've set up for myself and a lot of my clients is, we're going to connect with 25 people a day, so 125 people a week, 500 people a month, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. Between myself and all of my clients, we're getting about a 15 to a 50% connection rate back. The number one reason why someone will connect back with you is mutual connections. So if you're able to start within a certain industry or geography where you already have a lot of overlapping connections, that's a great place to start. And then, one of the things that will bolt on quite a bit to those first connection campaigns is a message campaign where after someone connects back with us, we'll send them a message. First message, really imploring everyone to certainly don't try and sell anything. Don't even try and help. Just provide an authentic thank you for connecting message, however you might write something to someone. And if someone were to reply, then the rest of the message sequence gets cut off. But if they don't reply, then we would send another message like a week later. And I'll give you an example here. So one of my clients, he's a lawyer and he owns a law firm, and he's trying to break into the blockchain industry. And so the first message is like a thanks for connecting. We're both passionate about the blockchain industry. Look forward to seeing your content, something like that. But his second message would say like, hi, Candy. More and more, I find myself writing about the intersection of law and blockchain, and I'm wondering if there's any topics you'd have interest in me writing about. Well, he's getting a phenomenal response from that because he knows, going back to what I said about the philosophy, he knows that the law in the United States is very convoluted and difficult for blockchain founders to know, what the government thinks and, where are they going with legislation. And so that's a very hot topic. And so he's getting a great response from these founders saying, oh, could you write about this topic? Or do you have any insight on this? And so he's already starting to establish himself as a thought leader and someone they can trust just by this second message that he's sending out to people, and not trying to sell anything, trying to just provide value through some of his messaging. So that's worked out really, really, really well. So those are kind of really base campaigns around growing your network continually with your ideal client profiles, and then starting to message the new connections that you're getting in really authentic, meaningful, and hopefully educational ways. But another very specific campaign type that I think your audience could really benefit from are LinkedIn live streams. And the way that I use LinkedIn live streams is by identifying a specific set of content. So, I created a deck about 3 months ago. And I'm using this deck, which is how to grow your LinkedIn network leads and sales using authentic automation. And I've identified founders and business coaches and sales executives and some different titles. But what I'm doing is I'm essentially using the same deck every week. I've made small incremental improvements week in, week out, but generally the same content. So I'm not having to worry about creating new content all the time. And then what I'll do is I'll customize just that first page of the deck to say, for founders or for sales executives, or for business coaches. So when I create the LinkedIn event, create the live stream, and I schedule it out for like a week or two later, then when I'm sending out LinkedIn event invites, which you can send out to whoever you want to invite. Through Rainmaker, I'm automating that, but you don't have to. You can just go ahead and invite people manually. When they get the alert, they'll see, Candy has invited me to this LinkedIn live stream, and they can click into it. It's a nice soft approach. You're not right in their face like you are with a first degree message. And when they get to your event page, they can decide to click attend or not. But this is really where the magic happens, is that if they click attend, or if they don't click attend, you're getting a great response in understanding whether your topic and or your audience is correct. If you're not getting anyone attending, then either your audience or your topic or both are not right. If you're getting people to click attend, then you're on the right path.
Mhm.
Then I do the live stream, and I use a product called StreamYard. It's $25 a month because you have to use an external product to bring in the live stream. But when I'm done, I will follow up with each attendee, and I'm getting between 10 to 25 people attend my live stream each week. When I'm done, I'll send a message and I'll say, "Hi, Candy. Thanks again for registering for the LinkedIn live stream that I led this morning. In case you missed it, here's a link to the recording," and I'll link back to the recording. And then underneath that, I'll say, if you're ever interested in chatting about LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab a time that's convenient for you here, and I'll send them my Calendly link. And so for any of us that, we get into one-on-ones with prospects and create a relationship before they buy, look at what I've done in very short order. I have identified an audience. I have identified a topic. I am reaching out to this audience. I'm getting them to click the attend button. I'm verifying that this topic and this audience are correct or not. And on the back end, I'm able to send them a Calendly invite in my response after the event is over. And it doesn't feel salesy. It doesn't feel pushy. It doesn't feel icky to them or to me. And it's just a great way, I think, for businesses to leverage their time and also leverage the network and really focusing on driving educational value through the LinkedIn network in ways that is really benefiting everyone on LinkedIn. So that's a strategy that I think a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, and sales and marketing people should really think seriously about adopting.
Well, that's a good point about having those events, and then by them just saying, accept or not accept, at least have an idea if they're interested. Now, I would think sometimes, this happens to me too, that maybe I get an invitation for something and it just isn't going to work in my schedule right now. So I am not able to attend, so it doesn't mean that it's not something of interest. It just isn't a high enough priority for me right now to have to readjust things. So I guess when someone doesn't attend, it doesn't mean they're not interested. It just means right now is not ideal for them.
That's a great point, and that's why I will, hit some of these same audiences, every month or every other month with an invite. And I've had, I've looked at some where I've had, a founder register like 3 weeks in a row because the first two they weren't able to attend, and then the third week they were. So, but again, some of the output, like from StreamYard, you can download the video when you're done, and you could, cut that up into smaller vignettes that you could use for LinkedIn posts. I will answer questions from the audience at the end of the live stream. And you could even take some of those questions that you're getting from people and use that as a LinkedIn post like a day or two later, where you could say, I was doing a live stream on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and I got this question, and I want to address that in this post, right? So you're even able to generate some content off of the live streams that are coming directly from your audience in ways that you probably may not have even thought about before. So but it's great. So
well, and I like the example too that you used with the attorney, where you were saying he's kind of putting these two things together, law and blockchain, and saying, is there something that you would find helpful in this area too, and then he can write about it, rather than what kind of frustrates me a lot of the times too is someone will reach out to connect and make an assumption. They don't even know anything about me or my business, and just like, oh, well, I offer this. Here's my calendar link. Schedule a call with me today, right? Type thing. Exactly. And I was like, this isn't even like a fit for me, right? And it does come across as very pushy. So I like the way that you said that he does that, because he can gauge interest by a response that he gets from them. And then as he's writing content and building a relationship over time, then that may come around to, hey, do you need some help? I'm happy to chat with you, and things like that, rather than you haven't even started to build a relationship and you are trying to push a product or service on me.
That's exactly right. Nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn. So that's why you really do need to lean into the educational aspect and being authentic and not being pushy, and think about, how do you add value to the network? And, I think a lot of it is, posting good content. I think, that does have to do with like live streams, or if you're going to do like a LinkedIn newsletter, like there's lots of different ways that you can engage people. I'm just continuing to hone in on, I want to generate, at the end of the day, I want to generate revenue by the connections I'm creating on LinkedIn. I still want to build relationships, but I also want my time to create value for me and clients. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just there's a lot of lazy people on LinkedIn and they want shortcuts, and they're just gonna, one of the things I came acutely aware of over the last couple of weeks and just talking with prospects is they're using the terms, automation and spam synonymously, right? Those are not synonyms. If you're using automation correctly, then that you shouldn't come across as spammy. Just as if you're doing things manually, you shouldn't come across as spammy. You should be authentic through and through, and really kind of have that go-giver kind of mindset where you're trying to provide value for other people first. And establish yourself as a thought leader and someone that's just sharing what they know, just kind of like what you and I are doing on your podcast right now. We're sharing our experiences and what we know.
So do you want to touch on the automation too? Because we know automation should help make things smoother and help you save time. But yet, again, like you said, you don't want it to come across as inauthentic. So how does someone use automation effectively? Like, what even do they use to help automate whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's sending out, after attending a webinar, I hope you found this helpful. Here's the replay link. What do you use to help automate that to save you some time, but yet also come across as an authentic person and not just trying to, blast it across to everyone?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, clients are hiring me for two things. One is strategy, which I'm happy to give away for free, like I'm doing now. 95% of everything I talk about, people can go do themselves manually. They don't need me. They don't need Rainmaker. The other reason why people hire me is for automation. And all I'm doing is automating LinkedIn best practices. So again, virtually everything I'm doing is happening within a client's LinkedIn account. So they can log in and look at their analytics. They can look at messages sent and invites sent. They can look at inbound messages, like everything's happening within their account. And so most LinkedIn automation happens that way. But what I would say is we're really taking those manual actions that you'd be doing anyway, and we're automating that out. And one of the things when I talked about kind of like that 25 a day, 125 people a week, those connection requests, LinkedIn has their kind of limits and what they want to see people doing within LinkedIn. And I'm safely under all of those limits. And if you're going to use any kind of automation, I would say stay nice and safe under that. If you can't achieve business growth on the numbers that I've put out today in the podcast, then you're doing something wrong. You don't need more numbers than that. And so what that also allows my clients to do is they can freely use LinkedIn to create their own like first connections as they're browsing LinkedIn, and they can do whatever they want to do on LinkedIn, and it's not going to get anywhere close to the LinkedIn limit with what they're doing with what I'm doing. So again, what I would implore people to do is just to think about, how are they using LinkedIn? How do they want to use LinkedIn? Learn strategies. And if they find that something like Rainmaker is, what's the value of their time, is something that they could benefit from, then great. The model that I have, there's no long-term contracts. It's just month to month. I was on another podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they said, well, what do you want out of Monkey Island? And I said, if I look back and I know that I've helped, a ton of entrepreneurs succeed and help them build their businesses, whether it's directly through something I'm selling them, or if it's just through, help that I'm providing them through like a podcast like this, then I'll feel fulfilled. And so the world needs more entrepreneurs. The world needs more small business owners. And so for me, that's what I get just a ton of pleasure around. And so again, use automation in ways that are authentic to how you would want to just grow and get educated. But I think LinkedIn, when used correctly, I've done a ton of cold email. Over the last 5 years, I've done a lot of LinkedIn automation and cold email. One of my other companies is a digital marketing company, and I've done a lot of that over the years, which I don't do anymore. But all those things have their place. But I think LinkedIn is the number one social network for anyone that's doing anything B2B and potentially even B2C, but for sure B2B.
Right. Well, this has been very informative. I know there's probably so much more we could talk about on this topic, but we are running short on time. So I would love to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share with our listeners.
Yeah, my offer is I would happy to do a one-on-one with anyone. If you go to rainmakergrows.com, if you click the free consultation button, that schedules a Calendly with me. And I would be more than happy to talk through LinkedIn strategy with anyone. And again, they can take all of that and go run with it themselves for themselves if they want. They don't even need me or Rainmaker to get going on virtually everything that I've talked about today or that I would talk about on that.
Perfect. Any other links or ways to contact you that you would want to share?
I would say, LinkedIn is great. You can find me, Colin Hirdman, Hirdman. I'm the only one on there. Or rainmakergrows.com. You can get in contact me through that too.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Colin, for being a guest on my show and talking about this topic today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Candy. Really appreciate you doing this podcast and helping business owners.
Well, I enjoy it. And so I was glad that we were able to have this conversation. And to you, the listener, I hope you enjoyed today's topic. And if you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.